so it's quite a unique beer because most brewers usually work with coconuts with a porter or stout or something, but we really wanted to do like a light,
what a novel concept.
And I think it works well with this beer. Your malt profile is pretty simple. It's very similar to a blonde ale. We got some Munich malts and a little touch of Vienna as well in there. All our malts we actually get from Belgium. We use Castle maltings, and the hops in this beer are all South African hops grown in George. Base malt also from Castle maltings. Yeah. A little bit about Drifter. So there's Drifter. As you can see, a little bit nautical. So my old man actually built a yacht 45 years ago, a sailing boat, in a small fishing village just over the mountain. It took him 5 years to build the yacht, and then when it was finished, he popped in the water and it floated. Then him and my mother, him and my mother jumped on board, and they actually sailed around the world on that boat for 10 years. They went all over the world doing odd jobs here and there, and eventually they came home, sold the boat, and then decided to start down.
That's awesome. Cool.
Wow. So everything we do here at Drifter is sort of based around that adventure and that creativity that my parents had back in the day. So we do a lot of crazy weird beers, such as this coconut. We also do a lot of nautical things, which we'll get to a little later. We age beers underwater as well. We'll taste very special beer a little later. But yeah, I'll interrupt you every now and then with some tinkling with the glasses. Questions?
So back home we've been taught that all the South African hop crop has been bought by InBev. Follow that up, please, sir.
I mean, yeah.
Is it true or no?
The hop plantations have always been owned by SAB Miller.
Okay.
Now that the merger's taken place, it's just one together. It's the same as all the malting plants in South Africa.
So you still buy hops locally? You can still buy them locally?
Thankfully, they still honor all of our original contracts we have with farmers here. The farmers are really nice people. They like want to work with us. And so yeah, we haven't really done So can you forward contract? Sorry?
Forward cheers.
Saison, which is our flagship basically.
I've had it. Great.
You've had it?
Great.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Yeah. So basically, the whole idea behind that beer was to kind of recreate umqombothi, or traditional African beer. Basically how it was born, I met an Australian brewer when I was a bartender back in the day. I was a bartender and a home brewer. And I got him to drink umqombothi. So he drank it, like a bit of it, and he was like, wow, this is nice, but has anyone ever modernized this beer? I was like, no, that's a sick idea. Why do you want to spoil our beer? That's our beer. But later I was like, you know what, maybe it's got a point. Maybe someone has to do this, you know. So I tried playing around with sorghum from that time on. It's a good grain. It's difficult, very difficult to make beer with, but it's very good. It's got nice flavors to it. So after making so many beers that were nice, none of them could catch what I was trying to get. Until I was like, you know what, maybe let me make a saison. You know? And so the fruity notes from the fruity esters from the saison yeast marry the sorghum malts quite well. So I made this beer, which is quite light and easy drinking. So I always kept it as our alternative instead of having like a lager or light beer in our line, which is, I personally don't like lagers.
Right.
So I won't even trust myself in making them. So this was the beer that came out of the thing. Mlo, can you come here and get these other trays here? So I will try to start with the people at the back, because mostly that's where the ladies are.
They're here.
Then, yeah.
Are these all the same beer? Or?
Yeah, this is all one beer. So
Which beer is this?
This is something. Yeah, you can also take them.
We're
gonna grab one while getting big.
I think they're loaded.
Very small little humble brewery. We're Ega project. So Ega, the reason why I've gone for the name Ega is Ega's the Norwegian god of brewing. He's originally god of the sea, but then over time Odin commissions him to become god of brewing, and he brews beer for the gods, but under the sea with all these sea creatures and mermaid daughters and that sort of thing. I've dedicated my life to the sea growing up, and when I came across a sea god that brewed, it was a no-brainer. Yeah. I didn't care how hard it was pronounced, I was like, that's the name. But yeah, so we're very, very small, as you can see. Upstairs we have all our malt storage and our mill. I've designed the brewery for very much a one-man show, so I have a hole up in the roof that shoots down to a mash tun, a hot liquor tank that heats up, so it won't fill. And then stir in, mash paddle, super high tech. Copper on that side. I'm very much of a eco-friendly type of person, so we've been very green as far as we can financially afford to. You can always go better, but we literally, I think, at our limit, especially with the water crisis we're on at the moment. So we recoup all of our cooling water back into the hot liquor tank for the next day's brew. We also had a phase where we didn't have electricity in South Africa, so we were saving electricity as well. And then obviously pump through to the fermenters, and that's where we obviously ferment all our beer. We've got all uni tanks because of our space. We don't have any beauty tanks, so just uni tanks. And that's basically the crux of it. I'm busy setting up a barrel room next door, so I'm a big fan of lambics, and I'm going to go sort of the lambic inspired route there. So I've probably only got about 6 barrels full so far, but hopefully 2 to 3 years from now I'll have some nice stuff.
Anybody have any words for the video? Everybody's got something to say until you put a camera in their face.
Well, here's the thing. You wait for us to get about 6 beers in, and you start asking for opinions, and it's more like...
That's because...
All this beer is...
we're having a great day so far on our South African beer trip. Great stop at Angier Brewing, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
And now we're at Jack Black Brewing, where the beers are really good too.
Beautiful space too.
Very nice.
Well, listen to Haley, she's wasted.
Wasted.
I'm not wasted!
We'll do this right.
Yeah.
Lucy, do you have a comment for the video? Sorry.
We have a comment on the pretzel.
Quite yummy. What is the video about? Welcome to South Africa, I guess. I hope you guys are having an awesome time. I hope you're having some really, really good beers so you can go back to the States and tell everybody that South Africa.
Let me go around this way so I can see you. Backlit. This is Lucy. She's the most famous beer writer in South Africa. Probably the only beer writer in South Africa.
Let's make people know. So I hope your trip is amazing. And that you go back to the States and tell people that South Africa is an emerging beer destination worth visiting for the beer.
You got it.
Oh, yeah.
And if people want to read more of your things, how can they find you?
In my blog, it's brewmistress.co.za.
Okay.
Best place to find me.
I got that.
It's like beer reviews and events and rants about stuff that, and occasionally nice things too.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yay!
Hi!
JR just threw a pretzel at me.
Good for him. We start today.
Yeah. To our late friend Dan Rosen, yes, he's very missed. Been on so many beer trips, and we miss him greatly. Okay, here we are. This is Collaboration Brew Day in South Africa. All right, what are you guys up to?
What are we up to?
Rochelle?
We are just putting in the lactose, final tap into the rye New England IPA. Add a bit of sweetness to it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's going to be a rye New England IPA.
Yes.
Yep.
Correct.
How are you making it cloudy?
How much oats did we have?
17 kgs of oats, 20 kgs of wheat malt.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
then 10 of rye. And then obviously nothing.
Only
added.
10 of rye?
Only 10 of rye.
Spike's favorite malt.
Yeah.
Had to use some rye.
And we followed no brewing principles.
Right.
Stirred during the whole
Okay.
thing, never before we
It's big mace.
American hops in the boil, and then we sat down and kind of did some testing on some new South African hops, some experimental hops that we're going to dry hop with.
Okay.
So what we did was we took the pellet hops and we put them in like a little bit bigger than shot glasses of water, and just kind of got the aroma and kind of the idea of what they were going to lend to them. So we had 3 different ones. We didn't want one of them. It was a little too oniony for what we got. We had a really nice one. I don't remember the number of it.
XJA.
Yeah, which was really nice and lemony and citrusy, which was real nice. And then the other one we picked was a little bit more grassy, with a little bit of mint maybe in there. And we're going to dry hop with those. So it's going to be a, like a global collaboration with American hops and South African hops to dry. In this New England IPA.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And tell us where we are.
Cape Town, South Africa. Upstairs at Banana Jam Cafe, we've got a little 5 hectoliter brew house. The brewery's called Afro-Caribbean Brewing Company. Sean, myself, and Rochelle have been doing it for 2 years.
I think it started 2 years.
2 years ago, and yeah, it's our sort of man cave. It's fun. We only brew for Banana Jam Cafe. And as you can see, it's really, really hot up here.
Right.
Oh, I'm not used to working. Not used to working so hard.
Me either.
Right. And tell us who you are again.
I'm Greg.
Okay.
From Banana Jam and Afro-Caribbean. This is my wife, Sean.
Right.
I'm Sean, Afro-Caribbean Brewing Company and Distilling Brewing Company.
Okay.
And who are you again?
Spike, Terrapin Beer Company, and official rye putter-inner of the...
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
Rochelle, brewer, Afro-Caribbean.
Okay.
She's the one who does all the work.
She did all the work today.
Yeah, we did nothing.
We'll take all the credit then.
Yeah.
Right.
So they can be, yeah, well, we were taught on the recipe.
At least this time I got it on video.
Yeah. It really wouldn't have been the same. If Spike wasn't here, I don't know what we would have done.
Right. It's very, very difficult.
And do you think the New England IPA is going to be very popular here with the...
I think so. I think people are just kind of, people like hops now. We've moved on to that, and so the NEPA is popular. It's not going to be, it's not a sessionable beer. It's not a beer you drink all night.
Right.
But it will be, I don't know. I think it's an interesting beer, and I think the fact that we can, we can say we brewed it with an American brewer will kind of give a little bit of a extra PR for it, so that people will come and try it and get moved on to the beer.
Sounds really good. I wish we could try it.
Well, you can.
But we'll be home. Right. Unfermented. Right. Okay.
Well, we might say, if we're going to get a canner, so if we can some of it, Greg will either bring it to Atlanta or we'll have it at the World Beer Cup.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Nash Vegas.
So you
bring it to Nash Vegas. Yeah.
That would be great. Fantastic. All right. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Wait, get the great white tooth that we're supposed to throw in. The great white tooth.
Huh? We already
Shark fin.
Oh, it's already in there?
Shark fin already, yeah.
Shark fin.
Shark fin. That's the findings, right? The cartilage?
Shark fin findings, yeah.
That's the one.
All right.
Thanks,
guys.
One of the most renowned winemakers in South Africa, and Henrik Dunge, the owner of a family brewery in Sweden called Arbro. And the two guys, they met about 17 years ago, and he fell in love with South Africa, being a Swede and living in the darkness over there in Scandinavia. So one day they came up with the idea to open a brewery in the Wineland. So my background, and then everything comes together. I was 16 years a master brewer for Paulaner Munich, or one of their master brewers. I didn't like the whole big facility, so I went out and started opening microbreweries because you've just been closer to the product beer. I started in Beijing, Shanghai, then Singapore, Manila, Bangkok, St. Petersburg in Russia, then Dresden in Germany, and then I accidentally came to South Africa and opened a Paulaner Brauhaus at the V&A Waterfront, which I ran for 10 years, 15 hectoliter Kaspari plant with 700 seats and ice pine and German sausages and sauerkraut. And then unfortunately my shareholder passed away, and we had to sell the whole investment. We had 2 5-star hotels, a winery and a brewery, So it was quite a huge investment, 1.4 billion rand in that time. And then I was without brewery, but I wasn't somehow finished with South Africa. I wasn't done. There was still something to do, I felt. And funny enough, next morning after closing, and I was sad, somebody phoned me and he said, sorry, you don't know me, but I drink your beers in 10 years. Would you be interested to open a brewery for me in the Winelands? And I said, no. I have a brewmaster position with Paulana. And he said, okay, sorry, wrong start. Can I invite you for a beer? I said, yes, I'm a brewer. You always can invite me for beer. So he flew next day with 6 guys over from Sweden to have a beer with me. And that was quite impressive. And he said, look, I don't want to make you a job offer. I want to make you family. And that's what he did. And the rest is history. Obviously, we shook hands 2 years ago, already running the brewery and being one of the largest craft breweries in South Africa. I said to him in a board meeting, hey Henrik, do you know actually he said we never made a contract? And he said, oh shit, can you quickly draw one up and we all sign it? And that is when you work with Swedes. What you see is what you get. There's no small prints, and they signed obviously my contract. I also made something in one note that they are not allowed to pressurize me, okay?
I had a drink. There you go.
If you come after 3, then it's really not.
Right. Start over for us. Start over.
All right. So, Brewtopia Distillery started in 1994. Started with my father, Helmut, who's there in the corner. Unfortunately, passed away in the meantime. He was tired of his life in Germany and had a restaurant and a hotel there, which was on a Michelin star level, but wasn't going very well. Beginning of the 90s. Recession time in Germany, lost a lot of money, was fed up with the country and the system and hospitality, and was looking for a new start quite late in his life, age 54, and coincidentally won a golf competition with a trip to America. Been to America quite a few times and wanted to go somewhere a bit more exotic, let's call it, by himself, to think and reevaluate his life and the next move. And then he settled on South Africa. Sounded good, and arrived here first evening. He ordered a grappa in an Italian restaurant. They brought him a very cheap, low quality Italian import, which he sent back and said, have you not got something local perhaps, or at least something of higher quality? And they said, no, we only do whiskey and brandy in South Africa, it's a monopoly. And he was quite surprised, but left it there. Went down to Stellenbosch, stayed on a wine farm that belonged to a Swiss guy. Swiss people also, love grappa and eau de vie and things like that. So they got talking, and he said, "Listen, you've been here for 30 years. Is there really no grappa and eau de vie?" And he said, "No, there isn't at all. But why don't you become South Africa's first private distiller?" And then he said, "Well, you're crazy. I know nothing about distilling." Then they probably had another 3 bottles of red wine, and it became a great idea. And the next morning, still drunk probably, went to the lawyer's office and put in just the application, because it was before the election, so it wasn't the new government yet, and so it was like a temporary, whatever you want to call it, application. He went back to Germany, forgot about the whole thing, got back stuck into the daily grind, and then a couple of weeks later he opened mail and there was his distilling license. So it was a bit of a shock. And then it took 6 months for us to move here. So it took me out of school. I was 15, 14 at the time. We arrived here, 2 suitcases, and settled in here. I went to school, finished my school here, and he received the distillery, not this one, this is a newer one, at our other location, 5 k's down the road. We've got a bigger kettle, a 700 litres still. So that arrived, he didn't have a clue how to even switch the thing on, so he had to have people come over from Germany, show him the basic operation. He went back overseas to Austria and to Germany and did all sorts of courses, whatever you can do, read all the books, and did the Master Distiller and Master Taster, Master Fermenter, all these diplomas. And then, yeah, went on to 1995 to produce the first grappas and Williams Pear, classic fruit style, German style spirits. And today I can proudly say we're South Africa's most awarded craft distillery still, so we're not just the first, we're also still the most awarded. And I then came to him about 4 years ago, and I said, almost 5 years ago I think,
when I saw international gin trend happening, I said to him, I think you should be making a gin, and he said, typical old German man. I said, no, that's it, mother. He said, no, I'm not making gin. To hell with you, and that's not my league, and I hate gin, and that's below me. And then it took me about a year to convince him, and the way I did it is I said to him, listen, you're South Africa's first craft distiller, you're the most awarded craft distiller, and now these youngsters in Cape Town are starting to make gin out of some garage, and I'm not going to let some youngster with tattoos and whatever long beard to take the fame and take the claim to fame. So just make a gin, make it properly. Let's win the first South African international gold medal for it, and then you basically show everybody that you're the master. And then he said, okay, fine, let me give it a crack. And took him 1.5 years to come out with a recipe. We finally launched in December 2015. And to give you a bit of an idea of what success it's been, from producing about 10,000 bottles a year of grappa and eau de vie all combined, about 7 or 8 different products, about 10,000 bottles a year. We last year made, so the first year of the gin we made 32,000 bottles of gin only, and then last year we made over 120,000 bottles of gin. So it's put us into a whole different league. It's a lot of fun. Of course, me being more the salesman behind it, it's a lot easier than selling grappa and eau de vie.
Great, hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to Stellenbosch Brewing Company, the home of Stelli's beer. We're situated just outside the beautiful town of Stellenbosch in the Stellenbosch Mountains, and traditionally an area known for its wine, but slowly but surely and gradually we're making a name for beer here in the winelands, turning it into the beer lands. So we have behind me a 2-vessel copper brew house in the front, where you enjoyed the tasting trays and the best of the Boerland, which is the area that Stellenbosch falls into. Charcuterie and cheese platter is our tap room, the Stelli's tap room. And yeah, we have a 2-vessel brew house. We have 6 beers in our portfolio at the moment, with a couple of seasonals. The New England style IPA that you've just tasted actually was out the tank last week. So that one is made with almost largely South African ingredients, with African queen hops coming out of Georgia. And yeah, we're just really honored to have you guys here, and
sounds very good.
To have you.
Very good. Thank you for having us. It's a beautiful place, and the beers are wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I'm Renee. I'm the brewmaster here at Darling Brewery in Darling, the middle of nowhere in the Western Cape. Those were my words. Those were his words. No, it's out here in the slow life, the slow West Coast, which is why our oldest beer is the slow beer lager.
Right.
This is our brewery. We do our magic.
Yeah. It's a beautiful brewery.
Thanks.
Very nice. And who are you?
Like you don't know.
Right.
I'm John Roberts from Max Lager's Brew Pub in Atlanta, Georgia. We're out here making a red IPA today with indigenous African fruit baobab. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you said it right.
Baobab. Trying to say it correctly.
Easy for you to say.
Very tart and somewhat lemony fruit. From what I've read, I haven't had a chance to taste it myself yet, but looks like it's going to be a very nice brew in the end. I think we're decided to finish it up with some Masaka and lemon drop hops.
Oh.
So it'll be a pretty nice result in the end.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Will this beer be bottled or packaged at all, or just served here in the tasting room?
This will definitely be bottled and kegged and served in the tasting room. The beer's name, I suppose I can give it away now. You can launch this after you launch if you like.
Okay.
It's going to be called Tata's Ivory. This is a big beer. It's about a 6.5% IPA. It's got a lot of caramels in there to contact this tart lemony flavor of the baobab. And it's going to be dedicated to Satar. Satar was one of the biggest tuskers ever poached. He had tusks, I kid you not, split from here and curled down the floor. He was poached in Kenya a while back in Tsavo Park. So the whole philosophy behind Darling Beers is to create some form of conservation awareness. All our beers are named for an endangered or misunderstood animal species that is on the bottom of the list.
It's Very good.
It's taken us about 7 years to get around to the African elephant, but now we're doing something really special for it.
How long is
fantastic to do? Plus, it gave me one of the most badass logos I've ever seen.
Oh yes.
That's great. Bone Crusher, yeah.
Bone Crusher.
How long's the brewery been here?
Brewery was built September 2015. Darling Brew has been contract brewing with other brewers since 2010. Then in 2015 got to build our own brewery.
Okay. Great. Grab the mash. Let me give a shot of the mash here.
Oh.
Got a sample of the mash here. It's a nice color.
It should come out a nice deep, semi-deep red.
Yeah.
I would think.
Did the fruit give you any trouble in the mash?
A little bit.
Okay.
It's a powdered form of the fruit.
Okay.
Toss that in the mash.
A little gelatinous.
A few clumps that we had to deal with.
What Renee says, it doesn't provide a lot of head retention to the beer afterwards too. Which
Right.
is pretty nice.
Okay.
Pretty nice and aromatic.
Right. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
European or American varieties. So a couple of them are kind of interesting. A couple of them are like hit or miss. But especially the aroma varieties are all very new, you know. So I feel like as craft brewers here, we have to really like try to make the most of them and embrace that. You know what I mean? So yeah. So that one kind of has this like pine, kind of earthy character on the nose. There's a couple varieties called Southern Aroma, Southern Star, that have that kind of pine earthiness to it. It's more of like your noble hop type character. But then there's other couple called Southern Passion and African Queen, which give you this really nice like berry kind of fruit thing going on. That's super interesting. So you'll get more of that on the mid palate on that one. And then it's got wheat notes, so it has that kind of soft body to it, but it's not overly bitter. It's very like smooth and dry on the finish because it's mainly trying to emphasize like those flavors from the local hops, you know, which is kind of fun. Then the third beer I have is called Tropical Parade, so that's more of a American IPA. So it's got more of that citrus, tropical fruit, a little firmer hop bitterness, but it's all about balance. Like it's not overly bitter, especially by like American IPA standards. And then I've basically used 100% English pale ale malts on that beer, which is kind of different. It has a little bit of that toasty kind of like malt character, but like mainly in the background. It's not like a caramel malt in an IPA where you get the sweetness up front. It's mainly like the way it supports it. Anyway, that's because we basically can get Fireman malts, we can get Simpsons, we can get. That's basically it, like the really good ones. So I use basically all those. So it's like all Simpsons malt and a little bit of Munich. And then the last one is called Live Culture. So that you guys might think that's the most interesting. So it's kind of a wild fermented type beer. So it's a whole yeast blend. It's a blend of different Saison yeasts and different ale yeasts. Wild yeast that we grew up, like from local fruit that we collected and stuff. So we knocked it out directly into the barrel. And so the way it actually worked is I built this kind of like homemade like Burton Union type setup. So I knocked out the first batch, and then it's a lot of Brettanomyces and stuff in it. So we did the first batch into the barrel with that yeast blend, and then put like a hose out of the bung, and then just basically collected it. So the krausen that pushed out from that first batch, we used as like the pitch, you know? So that first batch was kind of like the starter or whatever. We transferred that out, and then directly brewed back into it the beer that we have now, and then just pitch it with the yeast that we grew up. So that's kind of like the project, is to have that kind of house culture, just have it continue to evolve, you know. And then we do all that primary fermentation in that big oak barrel, because it's 500 liters, we do 500 liter batches. So it's kind of like it actually works out really well for us, because like, that thing costs me like 1,200 rand, and it's a fermentation tank now, you know, to where these things cost like way more, you know, it's like 60 times that. So, and I didn't really think about that when I was designing, but I was like, yeah, I got some capacity here, you know? Anyway, so yeah, so that fermented for about a month in the barrel, and then I transferred it out, aged it for probably another 4 weeks. It dried out really nice, had a lot of that nice Brett character to it, a little bit of tartness, but not much. And then I blended it with some local Feinbos. I don't know if you guys have seen that here, but it's kind of like a class of shrubs. There's literally like thousands of them. And some of them they use like in cooking or in like teas and things like that. And I found a couple that I really liked. There's one called Pellegrinum Citronellum, which has this like big lemon character to it. And that's so, and then another one called Coastal Sage that has a lot of the citrus, but also that kind of sage spice. So I thought that would layer really nicely on top of that dry fermentation characteristic. So I blended, so I basically dry hops with the Feinboss. So we picked it like fresh that morning, cut it up, and then put it in the fermentation tank with, you know, a bunch of hops. So like Mosaic, Hallertau Blanc, Comet, Cascade, and basically dry hopped it with the Feinboss and then the hops for probably 5 days. And then crash it and it settled out. And so that's kind of what you'll get in that beer. Is a lot of that lemon, a lot of that citrus from the Feinboss, but then also you get some of the fruitiness from the dry hops. And then the Brett is really starting to show, so you get some of this pineapple dry character to it. So yeah, so that's kind of our 4 beers. And then obviously we'll kind of, as we get going, we'll play around some more. We'll do some more hoppy, fun stuff, and then the barrel stuff will kind of get fun too. So, but yeah, my whole thing is all about like trying to like use local ingredients here and try to like take some of these flavors of the Cape and really bring them into our beer. You know, not just to come and just make like American style craft beers, but try to really like represent some of the flavors of the local environment here, you know. So I kind of just try to pick a few things at a time and incorporate that into the beer, you know, and try to give a real sense of place like to the beers. And you know, I think like that has a lot of potential for us as an industry. Like using the Feinboss because they're very unique here, like they're unlike anything else in the world. And then like the local hop industry, because I think we do have a potential to create with those, you know, broad categories, you know, beers that are unique to anything in the world. Like my vision is that like we create this thriving South African craft beer industry that like is renowned around the world. Of like, oh, South Africa's known for like craft beer, and doing something different. You know, like a lot of the guys here like continue to look to the States, continue to look to, you know, the UK and Germany for inspiration. But like I think, you know, as we kind of develop and the industry matures, I think we can really look inward and say like, you know, what's unique about us? And like, let's be proud of what we're doing here, you know? So that's kind of the long-term vision for what we're trying to do here, I'd say.